Hey guys, what's going on? How y'all doing today? It's Monday night, and we got Sam Seder on Jubilee. I got some timestamps here. We're gonna take a look at them. Today, at this point, he's debating DEI with a conservative dude, kind of a young conservative guy. And the issue of like race and kind of merit gets brought up. But I thought they had kind of an interesting exchange here. I'd like to share it with you guys. Let's get into it.
Of Republicans are white. That's just the reality of it.
So does that
Some
mean
people
that?
don't necessarily have a problem with that.
But here's the thing. You said even if let's just say, okay, that's true. 80% of Republicans are white. Does that mean that they're less moral? That they can't run an effective government?
It's just the idea
what does race?
That's a big thing the right clings onto. Just whenever you criticize like the whiteness of a certain group, I think it's kind of silly myself to criticize you see like some liberals doing that shit where there's a group of white people part of some foundation or part of some group, and they're just like, there's not a drop of melanin in the whole picture. And it's really corny and lame, but the whole thing a lot of right wingers twist this kind of stuff to mean like to suggest there's like some anti-white bias in these fields or what have you. And sometimes, I've heard from some leftists, the issue about race, and diversity and like the merits of diversity gets brought in there. And some white people feel like they're getting the short end of the stick. So, but I'm familiar with like some of the anxiety surrounding this debate. Like it's a question of morality. I really don't think that is, but Sam lays it out pretty good here.
What does race have to do? Hold on. What does
Donald
race?
Trump didn't have to say.
What does race
my
have
vice
to
president's
do?
going to be a white male.
No.
Because they all knew it was going to be.
No, this is the premise of DI. What does race have to do with running an effective government? What does race have to do? If let's say DI on the micro level.
I will tell you right now.
DI on the micro level at McDonald's.
I'll tell you.
Am I going to get better nuggets?
I'll ask you a question.
If the cashier is black or white, what does that have to do with anything?
I'll tell you.
It's kind of that colorblind kind of this issue. People don't really want to confront race head on. And there's questions about it. We talk about, what white people's role promoting white supremacy and whatnot. And as far as race and merit is concerned, some people feel that people without merit or less experienced people of color are taking jobs from white people. That's a debate we can also have. I see that bandied about in a lot of right-wing spaces and whatnot, but it does cause a lot of frustration among the right. It gives the right a lot of ammo to talk about this kind of stuff, and the whole replacement migration theory and whatnot. So kind of hearing this, from this guy is a little odd, to be honest, but he feels strongly about it, clearly.
First of all, DEIA means that if you come into this agency or corporation, you're not going to be discriminated
The A stands for accessibility, by the way, just in case you didn't know.
against because you don't look like everybody else, or you don't have the same physical abilities as everybody else, or you may require handles on the bathroom or whatever it is. That's what DEIA does. But does it make a government better if there's a broad representation of the people it's supposed to govern? Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless of DEI, don't we already have things in our Constitution that protects people's rights, protects people?
No.
We don't?
No.
Do we or do we not?
No, we do not. Tell me what protects people from discrimination in housing and in work and hiring or getting loans. It's all statutes. It's all statutes. And in these government agencies, there was nothing except for that order. That's why Trump just rescinded it.
Yeah, that's one question you gotta ask yourself. What is constitutionalist kind of people? They don't understand programs like DEI. I know it's a scary thing for some people, but it's basically just ensuring that people that have been kind of historically screwed over, black and brown people can kind of get a fair shake at this thing. People want to make it seem like it's something about, screwing whitey over. And I've seen some examples people throw around, but it might be a lot of fear mongering. I don't know. I want to understand, I'm trying to listen to some people on the right. Give me some examples of this kind of stuff. Are there actual examples of these companies actually refusing to hire white people for migrants? Hey, if you're out there, you're watching this, hey, let me know if you got any resources, any links or anything like that. That's a problem in and of itself. Discrimination of any kind is wrong. But, if we're trying to bring people up some people may get left behind. That's the thing. But I don't take issue with this. A lot of people are scared of it, but it's just like you got to give some people kind of an eve. Some people need more help than others. There's not really, I don't believe there's a one size fits all solution. You're going to have to give different kind of people different kind of assistance. Some people are going to need more help than others, but going forward, I want more clarity on this kind of thing, and that's what Sam is trying to deliver here.
I'm gonna tap out because I think someone else has a better can defend that point specifically better than me.
All right.
Okay, so he essentially had nothing, but this other segment here. But yeah, he says we've moved past racism, so I know a lot of people take issue with that. So let's see what he has to say.
DEI, essentially, if a person was not racist, he would hire someone regardless, right? So why would we need a policy to protect a person if we've moved past racism? So would you consider yourself racist?
Wait, are you suggesting we've moved past racism?
Would you consider yourself racist?
I consider myself, and sometimes I think we all practice like some form of, white supremacy. I think actually like we all do to some degree.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that. So I guess going to the LGBT topic, it seems like it's very prevalent for you as an issue.
Well, it seems like a big issue. I mean, the Republican Party spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people.
Well, yeah, that's a serious issue. These are serious issues that are happening, and the left's way of talking about it, I think it freaks people out mostly, because in this world, it's almost like you're incentivized. It's like there's different groups want to be victims, and they're all like clashing with one another. Some white people feel they're victims as well. And I'm not saying that there aren't white people that have been screwed over by the system. Was it based on the color of their skin? I doubt it. But, there's a lot of instances of people not getting a fair shake. But there's a lot of messed up stuff happening that Trump is doing to, like, a lot of vulnerable communities. And people are very, very angry about it. And, rightfully so. But let's move on. He had some interesting things to say. I think some of you may have seen this clip already. But let's get into it.
We're talking about government agencies that do not get tax cuts. Government agencies.
They don't.
No,
yes, they do. They absolutely do.
I'm talking about
every private and public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Government agencies don't pay taxes.
Are there instances of like some of these agencies maybe getting not tax cuts in a way? Was he talking about like some other kind of incentive? I don't know how much credit I want to give this guy. Maybe he means like they're rewarded in some way for hiring people of color or something like that. Or maybe is he suggesting there's like a mandate to hire people of color? I'm not sure where this guy is going with this. Sam seems real confused, and I got to say I am too.
Government agencies are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not true. And you know what? I think
he's so smug about it too. God, this fucking guy. Yeah.
I think the whole juxtapose of this entire conversation.
What month is this?
This is January.
Okay, so we can agree on that. The FDA does not pay taxes. It does not get a tax cut because it doesn't pay taxes. DEIA forces them.
This is like the kind of guy, like the pseudo-intellectual guy that was spawned on Twitter back in like 2016, 2017, who just, basically skims information, or he sees some reactionary tweets, or he reads like the headline of an article but doesn't get into it, or he reads a study but doesn't get into it. He finds anything that will support his theory or his hypothesis from any source, and he just doesn't look deeper into it. This is a lot of surface level stuff here, and it's frustrating to see, because you think people, after all this debate, after all these years of Trump, you think more people would know what they were talking about. I'm not saying I'm an expert in this kind of stuff at all, but I'm learning new stuff about this every day. But you got to at least be intellectually curious at some point, and not just assume you're right about everything.
As an agency, to say if you have a job opening, you must do your best efforts to make sure that every
I like that.
part
I love
of
me a
society.
buzzword. You must do your best effort. I love that buzzword.
Okay, pause.
Because you feel like you.
All right. Let's finish up what this guy has to say.
You have to. You're pressured to.
Yes.
You shouldn't be pressured to hire someone based on skin color.
No, not to hire someone on skin color, but put up notice about that the job exists. Make sure that you put it in different communities so that you have as wide an application pool as possible.
And therefore you get tax
right.
cuts.
All right.
Oh my God. You see Sam. Sam is mad. Oh my God. That look. My dad's giving me that look when I've been misbehaving when I was a kid. Just that. Oh man, this fucking guy. Oh my God. It's like he gets his talking points from Sargon of Akkad or something. But this guy really takes the cake. He's pretty nutty.
I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we didn't want a king. And the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king. And so we can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious fundamentalism.
And if I do, you have no issue with that.
And no. And this is why I say under Trump, yes, you have won.
Yes.
You have a
Only
bunch
male
of
and
Christian.
female. You're right.
You have a
You
Christian
won.
nationalist,
Yes,
and
which is necessary.
And so I concede the point that under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage
Yes.
under this.
Sorry, we're going to
And
have
so
more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have more family. We're going to have stable family households. Sorry about better
Trans
education.
People always feel so under attack. There's always something attacking them. It's like what I said before about this kind of like victim mindset. It's like nobody was really stopping you from getting married and having kids before. Some people, okay, could you say that maybe there's less, is it more difficult to date? Is it more difficult to get married? Is it more difficult to buy a house? Is it more expensive to raise kids? Yeah, you can still feasibly do it, but the cost of these things has gone up. So, okay, but thinking about it a little bit more, it is difficult to do these things, more difficult than it was for our parents. A lot of people just really are struggling with that kind of thing. I understand. I know some friends that are struggling, they want to have kids or they want to buy a house and whatnot, myself included, but as far as that goes, they're blaming the wrong people. They're blaming like LGBT people and like migrants and like other minority groups, other kind of like powerless groups that they just assume are like, well, if it wasn't for this group of people, I'd be able to have a wife and kids, and it's just, if it wasn't for feminism, I'd be able to have a wife and kids, or these other things, these other theories and concepts in their brains, so it's frustrating to see this kind of stuff. This guy looks kind of nutty, man.
Gay people should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be
Women
straight.
should be secondary to their husbands.
Women should submit
right?
to the husbands.
Women
That doesn't
should
mean
submit to the
that doesn't mean they are
husbands.
slaves.
Right,
It doesn't mean they are slaves. It means they are protected.
Okay,
let me ask you then. Let me ask you.
No.
Should women be drafted? Should women be drafted?
Listen, I think
if they're equal, should they be drafted?
I think this is the vision that you have, and I think Trump supports it.
There's a million of these guys. There's so many of these guys on Twitter, dude. I don't want to reference Twitter for all this kind of shit, but it's just, you argue, there's so many of these like trad weirdo accounts that have like 7 kids and live in the mountains and name their kids things like Tiberius Megatron and feed them raw beef and stuff. There's all this goofy, all this weird traditional stuff, man. That shit just doesn't fly. You gotta accept the fact women have their own autonomy these days. It's a hard hurdle to clear for a lot of guys. It's just, when it comes to like modern women, you just gotta have some tact. You gotta know what you're doing. Yeah, there's a lot of you gotta be less online. You gotta talk to actual women and discover, hey, they're not all the same. A lot of them are different. They have different wants and needs. You can't base all this shit off some dumb woman. I'm trying to be careful with the words I use here, but there's some dummies out there, some Instagram influencers who say all this goofy shit about, my boyfriend snored and it gave me the ick. My boyfriend has an Android phone and it gave me the ick. You can't base real women on these dummies on social media. You gotta be less online. You gotta actually talk to girls. God almighty, it's frustrating. But let's get on to the next one. This next one is pretty freaky. This one really threw me for a loop. This blonde girl. Oh my God. Let's get into her.
Hi.
Sam.
So I actually think that this liberal world order needs to be thrown away completely, and I think Christian nationalism would be a good alternative. What we're seeing
this kind of girl that goes viral for like saying the N-word or giving like a Nazi salute, like that one dummy, I covered her a few weeks ago, but this just like a lot of right-wing guys will see this girl and just want to impregnate her immediately.
Right now, it's
And
just
congratulations.
yeah, and thank you, and yeah.
Check out this dude. Check out the beard. Check out the tie. He's rocking it, man. He's rocking it. Looks like some nutty fundamentalist guy. Looks like he's holding a sign that says, God hates, well, you know. But anyways.
I think what we're seeing right now is a culture of death. This is the most suicidal generation ever. We have millions of children dying by abortion. People aren't even reproducing. We don't even have like a...
Should we mandate people reproduce?
No, I don't think we need to mandate. We can just stop them from killing their kids. There
So
are like
you want to outlaw abortion?
yes.
Yes, I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement on this, and my claim was that if you voted for Trump...
Believe me, this abortion thing is a sticky issue, man. I don't oppose it. You know, I've always been pretty pro-choice myself. I'm sorry if that disillusions you, but the way some people get so rabid about it, the way people were talking about it was like, you know, it's just all these liberal institutions want to like force us to get abortions and stuff, and there's a lot of anti-abortion extremism out there. You hear these stories about people like attacking Planned Parenthoods and stuff. You know, it's bad. I understand people being opposed to it. I understand where like the pro-life people are coming from, but man, it's just the reaction to it is so strong. I mean, people just want to straight up outlaw it, you know. And I remember the Roe versus Wade being overturned by the Supreme Court, and man, I remember the reaction to that. Oh man, if that law goes, I think we're in serious trouble. I think we're in serious trouble as a country. I'll just say that.
It would be to your benefit if you want to outlaw abortion.
I think it would benefit everyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that women should have the right to choose.
I think that it would benefit everyone to bring back the family unit, to stop having women just thrown into the workforce.
Maybe we shouldn't allow women to choose to divorce unless their husbands say it's okay.
I mean, I don't really believe in divorce. And
There's a guy nodding back there.
Also, like, sure.
All right. I mean, this I think though reinforces my point that if you are
but it would be better for society. It would be better for everybody in society. And same with xenophobic like, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
To be xenophobic nationalism is better.
We should have
if this girl was on Twitter with like her real face, people would be thinking it was like a federal agent. I swear to God. Just when you think things are like getting toned down, but there's still a lot of these people out there. There's still a lot of these nutty motherfuckers out there. It's just like every stereotype about like conservative white women and how evil they are rolled into one. I bet she even listens to Taylor Swift. Don't get me wrong. I love the white girls. Don't get me wrong, but holy mackerel, honey, you are a nut job.
Coherent culture.
Somebody once said, dating a right-wing woman is weird. It's like dating a man. And this is all stuff. This is like word for word. I know a lot of right-wing guys. This is the kind of shit they say almost word for word in a lot of their tweets. Is this girl some kind of like Nazi pick-me or something? I don't know. Is this what like right-wing women think they have to do to like get married and have kids? Is that what kind of guy is she hoping to attract? You're going to attract some bad people, honey. You can't be doing this shit.
Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have assimilation.
Do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
What is
based
the dominant
on
culture?
European and Christian values and identity. That is the dominant culture.
White
it's
Christian,
rooted in European identity.
White. So your argument is
that has been the dominant culture.
Just to be
clear. And we're not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture is so divided.
Your argument is that Trump is good for those.
I do agree. What's his name? Freddie DeBoer did a Substack about this. I read a bit of it, but he was basically talking about like he's pro-immigration, but he does think assimilation should play a factor. I can kind of understand where this girl is coming from. there's a lot of migrants in my area, and most of them are pretty well assimilated. Some don't speak the language too well. It's a different culture. It's a different kind of thing. I'm not saying we got to boot them out, but it's a little bit of a learning curve being around different people. It is good to be around people from different cultures and learn different things and have different experiences, eat some different food or whatnot. But, at the same point, there's something to be said, like, you want to just kind of, belong in the culture in a way. And you can come here and you can start a business or you can start a family or whatnot and live the American dream. That should be available, maybe not for everybody, but for a good number of people. I don't really have a problem with that. But there is something to be said, like, you got to be able to get along here and understand there's some foreign cultures that do not mesh well with, like, the liberal Western standard. And maybe that sounds a little right-wing to say that, but I think maybe some of these guys have kind of a point. You hear about a lot of these kind of things happening. I don't want to get into that right now and paint immigrants. I don't want to be, like, anti-immigrant, of course, or anything like that, but there is something to be said for, like, assimilation. That's all I'm trying to say, basically.
Who want a dominant white European culture.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted in European identity and Christian values.
Okay, that's enough of that. I'm sick of those reheated, like, 2017 alt-right takes, man. That shit was everywhere for a while. But this dude...
Micah.
Hey, Micah.
Good evening.
Sam, nice to meet you.
There's an idea that you have that basically government can kind of fix all these problems, right? If you didn't save for retirement, well, then the government can just come in, swoop in, and save you from that.
Well, not swoop in. It starts on literally the day you get your Social Security.
Sure. It swoops in once you retire, right? Once you can.
Well, you pay into it.
Right, exactly. And so you believe this idea basically that government is an effective organization, which it does time and time again. If you look at history, that's proven to not be true.
When you're hitting at retirement, you don't know. This is an insurance program. That's it. It's an insurance program, and it basically says you're insured against eating cat food when you're 65, and it works. It works.
No, it doesn't. You should have, you should have your own personal...
How doesn't it work?
Well, this is a comment here, not to cut Sam off. Sorry, Sam. But this comment here is interesting. The easy argument against those folk who say everyone should just save for their own retirement is, where do they save it? Any private insurance or savings account is always susceptible to being bankrupt. Literal money under the mattress will devalue because of the existence of interest and the pursuance of economic growth. Storing precious metals has its own risks and costs. Using government as the insurance investment guarantees that the money never gets lost because of a bad investment. If government cannot pay Social Security, chances are everything else has already gone bust. So, yeah, and considering some of Elon Musk's statements and Bernie's reaction to, the idea about Social Security, makes me really nervous. Makes me think I'm not going to be retiring till I'm 90, and then I'll be eating cat food.
How doesn't it work? Yeah. Well, I mean, we've already discussed the details of how it is just completely failing as a program. Like,
how is it failing?
Because I'm not going to receive any Social Security
I've already
benefits.
told you right now.
I know. I'm not going to rehash out that debate.
Well,
the main
look
issue.
At the numbers. You've just been told this, and you know why you've been told it? Is because they want to raid it to give tax cuts to rich people. That's why.
So are you saying there are the
Look at people nodding back, or the people shaking their heads back there. It's just like, Sam's right about this,
Trump tax cuts were only for rich people. You're saying
No, I'm not saying they're only for rich people.
Oh, okay. Then how could
rich people benefited more from it than low-income people? And I would
And what do you mean benefited more from that? Because we already went over the percentage numbers, and we know that's not true.
They don't need the money as much, and they don't need it.
What are you talking about? These rich people are the people that are investing in smaller businesses. These are the people that are giving other people jobs to allow them to provide for their family.
Okay,
Listen,
pause.
Sam was one of these big tax the rich guys, and I agree with some of his points about that. Maybe some right-wingers think, like, if you tax them too much, it stymies business and whatnot. I got to look a little more deeply into that. That's not so. I want to have a more robust, be able to comment on it more intelligently, but still, it sounds like, I don't want to say this guy's argument is completely bullshit or something like that, but there's a lot of stuff. People will defend the rich and powerful just to try to get one over on, leftists, and it's really goofy to see. You got people defending, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and stuff, and it's really weird to see these fucking guys, who don't give a shit about you, but you're going to you're willing to die on that hill. I don't understand. Let's get into this guy. Kind of an odd dude.
You're making an argument for higher taxation.
Okay, do you think taxing people makes the country wealthier? Is that what you think?
Does it make the country
Do taxes
wealthier?
make us wealthy? Is that government increasing taxes? Are we now more wealthy? Do you think that the only way you create wealth is by producing?
I just got a text from my boss asking me for $20. Jesus Christ.
If you tax and spend, government stimulus can, yes, increase GDP, of course.
Is GDP wealth?
Is GDP wealth?
If we import 10 million immigrants and our GDP goes up, are we now wealthier? If the housing costs more, if CPI goes up because there's more people.
No, I understand. And inflation is under control, and we haven't pulled that money off the table.
Right, but I'm just saying that
inflation is back down because we had a problem.
The welfare state makes us all poorer. Yes, it does, and you can see it across history.
There is something to ask. Something getting back to the immigration thing. He brought up like bringing 10 million immigrants in. Immigrants do take resources. You need somebody migrates here legally or illegally. They're going to need housing. They're going to need food. They're going to need employment. They're going to need resources. They're going to need like some kind of healthcare or whatnot, and that's an argument I see a lot of right wingers bandying about. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but it is concerning, especially the border security and immigration. That's a hot button issue, and not to crap all over Sam, but a lot of leftists I see don't really seem to take it seriously. And I think that is something on the right that we should be taking more seriously. But, I don't want to attack migrants. I don't want to say all migrants are evil and bad. A lot of them are just coming here for better opportunities from their own country. I understand that. And, I think there should be some checks and balances on it. I'm more, I'm more of a border security kind of guy. I think borders are good. Sorry, everybody. But that's the way it is. But, there are questions like, what kind of economic benefits do they bring? There's some libertarians say, they increase GDP and whatnot, but, is that really a good measure of like how well everybody is doing? There are some legitimate concerns that he brings up. And, Sam, I don't know if I necessarily agree with his take on this.
If you compare...
People want to come here for economic opportunity. We don't want handouts. We want opportunity. That's why, as an immigrant, that's why my family came here. We left the socialist paradise. It's garbage. The people that come here want economic opportunity, and you're stifling that. You're undermining capitalism and the free markets with your utopian vision.
There is no free market.
Well, there's not anymore.
No, there's never
but now there used to be.
No.
That is what makes America the greatest. That's what makes the greatest. America is the greatest economy in the world because of the free market.
The greatest
free market capitalism is the most ethical and moral.
America had was when we had 90% tax.
That's not true. The numbers are against you.
1940, 1950,
Hey guys, I was editing. I wanted to add a little bit more to this conversation. I looked at the video and I don't think I had a very good response to this, but basically the guy's talking about free market economics and the advantages of them. Sam posits that there's never really been a free market in this country. I'm not sure about that, but we know free market economy is basically like the private sale of goods and services without government, intervention in any way. And some of the pros and cons is like economic efficiency, more consumer choice, more innovation, it's more adaptability and no government intervention because, that's scary. But, a lot of things that the free market produces, and I think Sam was trying to make this point before he kind of got cut off, was, it produces income inequality, market failures. We know what happened, in the 2008 recession, the 1930 Great Depression, short-term focus, prioritizing short-term profits over long-term sustainability, boom and bust cycles, it goes up and down. Look what the stock market's doing right now. It's insane. A lot of exploitation leads to monopolies, leads to a lot of these big companies forming. And that's one thing the Biden administration did, just as an aside, that I liked, was breaking up a lot of these monopolies and returning some of the investment back to the consumer. But also, there was one thing, this is what Sam was referencing, the taxes of the 1930s and 40s, the wealth tax of 1935. During the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs put millions of jobless Americans back to work and stabilized the economy. Social Security programs provided pensions to those who could not work. However, the government needed new taxes needed new taxes to pay for these programs. The Revenue Act of 1935 put a new progressive tax, the wealth tax, in place. Those making more than $5 million a year were taxed up to 75%. Unlike their Civil War grandparents, the wealthy were not happy to pay income taxes during crisis times. Loopholes in the tax code were used. The federal government aggressively prosecuted tax evaders. The Revenue Act of 1937 cracked down on tax evasion by revising tax laws and regulations. Boy, that would be nice right about now. Anyways, there's also the Victory Tax in 1942. 1939, only about 5% of the American workers paid income tax. The United States' entrance into World War II changed that figure. The demands of war production put almost every American back to work, but the expense of the war still exceeded tax-generated revenue. President Roosevelt's proposed Revenue Act of 1942 introduced the broadest and most progressive tax in American history, the Victory Tax. Now about 75% of American workers would pay income taxes. Because so many citizens pay the tax, it was considered a mass tax to ease workers' burden of paying a large sum once a year and to create a regular flow of revenue into the U.S. Treasury. The government required employers to withhold money from the employees' paychecks. Additional taxes were put in place by 1943, the war's end in 1945. About 90% of American workers submitted income tax forms, and 60% paid taxes on their income. The federal government covered more than half its expenses with new income tax revenue. So I just wanted to red pill you guys on that kind of stuff. But back to the video. You know, what he was saying before, you know, about, I do think there's something to be said about migrants getting exploited. You hear a lot of stories about, Sam brings it up himself. Sam's mentioned it on his show, and I kind of cringe when I hear it, but it's like, these illegal immigrants come here, they work harder than Americans. They work 2 or 3 jobs. I'm just kind of like, that's kind of fucked, honestly, that these people have to work multiple jobs to support themselves in this country. But then there's an argument like, should we pay them more? Should we instill some kind of law that means every immigrant can make, as you know, the average wage or have a living wage or whatnot? But then it's like, okay, these people get freebies. There's a lot of right-wing concern about the California government giving assistance to illegal immigrants while there's people homeless on the streets all over the place. You know, there are some concerns here about this kind of thing. Are migrants being exploited? You know, are other people facing the brunt of this? Are people actually losing out on work? And there might be a couple cases, maybe it is happening in some regards, and it doesn't help anybody. The system itself, I was talking with some friends about this, but, you know, I kind of approached it from a left-wing perspective. He kind of had a right-wing perspective on it. A couple guys were just kind of like, it was a pleasant conversation, but we all agreed, we could all agree that the situation is fucked with immigration. The system we have is totally fucked. It takes people way too long to get in. There's a lot of systemic problems with it. It's just a mess. There's really no other way to say it. I don't want to editorialize here, but yeah, let's end it there. A lot of intense conversation to be had. I thought Sam handled himself well. I didn't agree with everything he was saying. Some of these people are absolute nut jobs. It's like every stereotype about right-wingers just presented right in front of you. But yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty entertaining. Sam kept it pretty entertaining. He talks about this stuff for a living. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you watching. If you watch this far, God bless you. But yep, enjoy the rest of your night. And I will talk to you guys later.
Ryan Little.